Good morning, everybody. This is a new start to the Wednesday one thing that we've been doing here at Clearbank. Obviously, with Zoom being a huge part of our lives now, some people are feeling a little bit zoomed out. So we decided to change up the format. And with me today, I just have one other Clearbanker. It's Hamza from our account director team. And yeah, I don't know if you can see him waving because we have a split screen here. But what we're going to do is just talk about one thing that's been really exciting for the past week, as well as 3 mini stories, and Hamza's going to give us his hot takes on them. And these are all stories that we think are really relevant to what's going on in the world of technology and e-commerce. So let's just get it started. The first news of the week, our big Wednesday one thing, I'm sure if you're in the e-commerce world, you have heard about this, but it is this really huge partnership between Walmart and Shopify. So again, Shopify cannot help itself but stay in the news cycle during the coronavirus pandemic. But they've had this huge partnership inked with Walmart, and their goal here is to import around 1,200 small businesses onto the Walmart marketplace to help them sell through a third-party seller. So I'm going to toss this question over to Hamza. But Hamza, how many monthly views do you think Walmart has been getting through its e-commerce stores?
Yeah, I think I read somewhere it's north of 100 million.
Yeah, that's right. So right now, the latest stat they quoted was that Walmart is seeing around 120 million monthly views through their online business alone, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
They also said that their total online store shopping online has grown actually 74% last quarter. So you can pretty much imagine like what this sort of means for Shopify sellers. It's a really great partnership. I think at the end of the day, like, what do you think this is going to have as an impact for Shopify and how it relates to how they're competing against Amazon?
Yeah, it's so cool to think about like the impact this would have on e-commerce marketplaces altogether. Because obviously Shopify is not a marketplace; it's a platform. And so like when people compared Amazon and Shopify, it never really made sense to me in that way. What I think of this is as just a larger competition to Amazon. The way the Amazon marketplace has operated, Walmart clearly also wants to tap into that side. So it's a pretty big win for both Shopify and Walmart. Like Walmart gets Shopify stores, Shopify gets Walmart marketplace. So it's probably going to take a much bigger size of the e-com marketplace market. Like right now, if we wanted to buy anything, like almost everyone, like the first thing they do is like go look it up on Amazon. And essentially what this might do is change that towards another direction. Like people might just be like, cool, let's go look at, Walmart marketplace and see what, direct to consumer brand is making scented candles and then the whole brand and like, the differentiation that comes with being an Amazon seller and being a Shopify store owner is just pretty big. And so it's not like it's another Amazon. It's like, it's a very consistent, a very clearly distinct from what Amazon offers.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I thought was really interesting from this article that TechCrunch posted was that first of all, Walmart's growth from their e-commerce sales, they were obviously up, but their marketplace sales actually outpaced their first party sales. So that gives you a sense of how successful this could potentially be for Shopify sellers. And then the other thing is the businesses that Walmart is looking to upload, these 1,200 Shopify sellers, at least the first batch are looking to be complementary goods to Walmart's offerings. And what I want to throw out to any viewers out there is, if you're a Shopify seller, anyone can go and install the Walmart Shopify integration app, and they'll tell you if you're approved or not. So I am curious what Walmart will allow initially on their platform. And then also what's really cool about this integration is from the Shopify seller point of view, you can edit everything on your Shopify store, price, product pictures, and then that just gets automatically reflected on the Walmart site. So I think the big winner here, definitely Shopify, huge for their merchants, huge for Walmart. And I just see this as not obviously an existential threat for Amazon, but all the old conventions where everyone thought that Amazon is by far the market leader, no one can touch them. I think this is exposing little cracks in their armor. Cool. So that's our big story for the week. We're going to dive into a new segment we have on Wednesday One Thing, which is I'm very excited for, and it's flaming hot takes. So I have 3 mini stories here, and Hamza's going to give us a little hot take. I don't know if he's heard any of these stories, but he's a huge technology nerd, so I'm sure he'll have some thoughts about them. Okay, this first story could have possibly been actually our big story, but it's been developing since yesterday. But there's this new email service called Hey, and it's started by the founders of Basecamp. And essentially, the best way to describe this is everyone's been getting onto email as a subscription service. So think Superhuman. Hey is just another one of those. It's email on steroids. It's a subscription service, so you actually have to pay to use it. But what they boast is you're just going to have better email. So never get spam again. They have something called an inbox, not an inbox, but an inbox, and it's a real targeted, like, here's the stuff you need to focus on. Honestly, email sucks, so they just figured out a way to make email a lot better. Super exclusive. You need an invite to get on. But the real juicy nugget here is that Apple is now threatening, or they will pull the app off of the Apple App Store because they want to take 30% of the sales, of the subscription sales that Hey generates. And obviously, I don't actually know this guy's name, but he's the founder of Ruby on Rails, and he's also the founder of Hey. He doesn't want to play ball. He thinks this is an absolute shakedown. 30% of your subscription sales just to be on the Apple App Store. And the real controversy here is that there are apps like Netflix who don't have to pay that I guess what he's calling a gangster tax. And so this has started a huge revolt on Twitter of all these developers saying this is a huge shakedown. So I don't know if you've heard this story, but what do you think about that? Are you paying for email? Like, what do you think about Apple? And yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I haven't used Hey yet. I haven't used Superhuman either. Both super interesting concepts, and obviously Superhuman's a pretty big company at this point, so it's earned a very loyal consumer base, oftentimes from very well-connected people or really just very busy people who have busy emails to attend to. It's interesting because so Apple takes a third. In defense of Apple, I'm not really defending or whatever, but Apple has taken 30% of subscriptions or like in-app revenue from all external apps on its app store for I'm not sure since when, but that's pretty much been the case for a while. And from what I know Netflix stopped having it on the apps, like stopped having its app on the App Store a while ago. I think Spotify charges extra just to make up for the lost revenue. And it's one of those really tricky situations, right? It's like, like Uber, for example, takes a very hefty charge on every restaurant delivery it makes, hurts the restaurant's margins, but the restaurants don't really know what else they can use right now during a pandemic because they're not working, and Uber is just this marketplace. Uber Eats, sorry, is just this marketplace where everyone can reach those restaurants. And similarly, Apple's just in a really strong position in that sense, right? Like the App Store is a marketplace. It's got all these, amazing apps built by third-party developers. A lot of, I'm not sure what the number of MacBook users or Apple product users in the US are, but it's probably very, very, it could probably be a country on its own. And it's just, it's one of those tough situations because Apple's doubled down on it. It's not like they came up with the concept on the spot specific to Hey. They doubled down on it, and pretty much everyone previously went along with it. They sort of just went like, "Oh, cool! Like, where else are you gonna go? Apple isn't gonna like move over for a small company." But it's interesting that the CEO I think of Hey, or it might be the CTO, the person who's really been in the news. He's taken a stronger stance on it. Which makes a lot of sense because, at some point someone's going to take a stance on it, and then maybe others will jump in, and maybe that'll move the needle. So I guess that's what it's really about, like moving the needle and like making it a bit easier for smaller app, like, tech companies to emerge onto the Apple marketplace, just because it's like the Amazon or the Uber Eats for tech apps for consumers.
So I guess the hot take here is, are you team Hey or team Apple?
It's I don't hate Apple for it. It's something that they've done for forever. But I am team Hey insofar as that this may move the needle and make lives easier for other founders.
Got it. Well, I'll just give you, first of all, Netflix definitely is still on the Apple
Okay.
App Store. And the real double standard here that I think they're talking about, which is very true, is that they'll allow platforms like you can put on Microsoft Office on the App Store, but they won't take up part of that subscription revenue because it's part of a business transaction. Whereas, Hey, they've developed, like literally before they developed their own payment processor for this, people pay for it generally with their business card, but Apple still wants that cut. And just one more number that may actually just shock you. I just read it on my phone here, but on June 15th, Apple announced that the App Store ecosystem facilitated over $500 billion in commerce in 2019, and that 30%, of course, goes to Apple. So that's just wild. All right, second hot take for you. This is back in the world of e-commerce. This is just a stat, but U.S. e-commerce sales jumped by 92.7% in May, according to a new Sending Pulse report from MasterCard. So I guess the flaming hot take here is like, e-commerce, is this the golden age? Is this just the beginning? Like, what does this mean after coronavirus? What do you think? Are we going to keep seeing just explosive numbers every month, like another 90% growth, or is this like, have we topped out here?
Yeah, so I guess for this, I'll reference someone who's a lot more qualified than me, and that's Michelle. So something Michelle said was, we're essentially living in 2030 as far as e-commerce is concerned. Like and another point that she's driven home on multiple occasions has been that as e-commerce penetration rates go up, they're not really likely to come down, or they won't just shock downwards. I think it's even hard to call it the golden era of e-commerce, just because I think there's so much room to grow for e-commerce. Like even now, I think it went up by 92%. I'm trying to get the stats on what the percentage of online sales was of like total consumption, but I think it might be around the 30% mark. And like, be mindful, all of this is going to really big companies as well. So this isn't all just like smaller direct-to-consumer businesses that these sales are going to. But in a way, that's also like a good thing for e-commerce in general, because it means that the bigger companies, the companies that had a very strong in-store presence, strong wholesale brick and mortar presence, are also focusing on e-commerce, right? And again, just to quote Michelle, you can't really be a consumer product company that in 2020 right now that isn't building out its e-commerce section. If you weren't focusing on e-commerce, you're going to be developing or putting some effort into e-commerce now at the least. Like I speak to founders every day, and every now and then, approximately once a week, I speak to a founder who is now, for the first time in their 15-year career, focusing on e-commerce. Before, they were focusing on wholesale, or they had a good thing going with their brick and mortar. And there's no one I've spoken to who's trying to scale down their e-commerce or look away from e-commerce. So I just think there's a lot of room to grow. Curious to get your thoughts on this.
Man, it's flaming hot takes. You're the one giving the hot take, so I'll just throw it back. Is e-commerce golden age, or have we peaked, or what do you think?
Oh, we haven't peaked. Huge way to go. Like massive way to go.
Perfect. All right, and the last flaming hot take here. This is really actually more of a shout out, but this comes from our community and one of the companies we fund. But it's truLOCAL, and truLOCAL recently created an equal opportunity business grant. And what that means is they're giving away $10,000 in grants for Black-owned businesses, and their process is very straightforward and transparent. What they want to do is give two companies that are at least 50% Black-owned $5,000 in grants. Really, again, as you mentioned, just to take advantage of what's going on in e-commerce right now, help society, help grow a little bit, and do a lot of good. I love this initiative. I'm going to link, we're going to send a link out as well in the bottom of this notes for how to apply for this. But it's great. You just have to submit a short video, no longer than 10 minutes, telling about your business and what you do and what you would use $5,000 to grow. And truLOCAL is going to review every application and select 2 winners based on the business viability and just how they feel, which is going to have the biggest impact on their community. So, yeah, I guess throwing it to you, like, what kind of things are you seeing with e-commerce founders and doing good for the world, not just doing business? Like, what's the strategy there, and have you seen that elsewhere in our book of business or even just elsewhere?
Yeah, well, first of all, my first flaming hot take on this is that this is awesome. It was super great to learn about it and read about it, and obviously super happy to have truLOCAL with us as one of the founders companies that we work with. By and large, like some things that I've noticed across the board have been like an outreach of almost like just responsible production in a way. So, for example, like from March through to May, almost every apparel company that I spoke to was putting a significant amount of effort into making sure that they could make masks, for example, and masks not just to sell on their website, but masks for hospitals in their local area, right? These were donations going out. So, like I would be on the phone with the founder and we'd be discussing when would be the best time to move forward. And he'd tell me, hey, right now I can't, I need to focus on making masks for a week. And I'd be like, yeah, I totally get it. It sounds pretty important. So, by and large, I think like that's sort of the beauty of the market, and of like entrepreneurs in general, like they come together to come up with solutions and solve problems. You don't necessarily need some like grand old like computer monitoring or like telling people like what is the best thing to do now. It's like you just have all these founders rising up and like saying, okay, cool, that's a problem, let's go fix that. That's a problem, let's go fix that. And so like truLOCAL's done that, in light of like things that people have been talking about in the past 2-3 weeks. Founders that I've spoken to, a lot of apparel brands have been doing that in light of what's been going on since like say mid-March. So like that's the most exciting thing about working with founders. And yeah, like I could probably come up with a few names and give like founders that I work with shout outs to, like meal prep companies and people like that who really made a difference to their communities. Just a lot of awesome stories around there.
Love that. Thanks so much, Hamza, for joining me. I think I kind of like this format. I guess I'll throw it down to the people who are watching. If you like this as well, we can continue on this way. But just wanted to wish everyone a happy Wednesday and tune back each week for more flaming hot takes from Hamza and more Wednesday one things from us. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, thanks so much, Maury. Cheers.
Cool.